Hello, I'm Katie.
And I'm Beth, and we also worked with James to produce this video.
We spoke to a lady called Mrs. Cadeau about her experiences of the Blitz and working with the Quakers after the Second World War.
We participated in this project because we were interested in how stories were passed down.
We really hope that you enjoy her story.
I lived in London. I was on holiday in Eastbourne when the war broke out, and of course poor people had no phones in those days. I was with my friend, we both wrote home and said, had we better come home? And both sets of parents wrote and said, no, what difference would it make, enjoy your holiday. So on the way back we were talking about what we could do, you know, this business about doing a bit. And I thought it'd be very glamorous to drive an ambulance. So we went to the interviewing place where there was a very dignified lady in charge, and I told her this, and she said, can you drive already? And I said no, and she said, well, we've got no time to teach you. You'd better go to a first aid post. So that was what happened. It was sited in one of the London hospitals, but rather a small one. I was actually very happy there. It had a young matron, the atmosphere was good, and I was fine, but I was only some kind of an assistant nurse. So when I decided that, I think I'd really like to take full training, some of the nurses tipped me off that they weren't doing very well these days in their exams. Sister Tutor wasn't all that good. So I transferred to a different hospital, also north of London, Edgware, and that had itself been bombed. I think mainly the laundry, and I think that made the staff very tense because it was not a good atmosphere in general. During our first year, at our first year exams I should say, one of the group had all joined at the same time found she'd failed. She committed suicide. So my friend and I felt we couldn't stay. No way could we stay there. And I said to her, well, this is kind of awkward because we're of call-up age now. And she said, oh, don't worry, I've done a bit of part-time work with the Quakers near where I live. They'll be very glad to have us because we both were pacifists. That was the reason why we presented ourselves at a friend's house. The government had thought about evacuating school children, as everybody knows now, and pregnant women, but they hadn't thought what might happen to old people who got bombed out of the cities. So the Quakers, who are extremely efficient at this type of thing, and often have lots of very wealthy friends, have managed to take over a number of country houses all over England and staff them and look after these bombed out folks. When the war did end, I went down to London for a 10-week training course, but my idea was that I wanted to go to an occupied country like Belgium or Holland, where I knew very well they'd suffered appallingly. But it just happened. I had met my husband by that time on the training scheme, and he'd had a very bad war because he had worked with the Quakers himself in an organisation called Friends Ambulance Unit in Finland, and his ambulance had been bombed because you can't say that was particularly wicked. Apparently some countries used ambulances to transport armaments. But he ended up in Greece just at the time when the Germans were about to land. English intelligence hadn't been quite good enough, and he was captured. So he'd spent 4.5 years in a camp. Because, even though he was a pacifist, he still had to observe the demobilisation rules. They'd granted him permission to work with the Quakers because this was well recognised as a very valuable piece of work. He'd got to do another 6 months service, I think it was. And so he went to Germany and I followed him.
Yeah.
It didn't really suit my conscience because I said I thought I should go to one of the occupied countries.
Yeah.
But people are just people.
Yeah.
When the Russians invaded, as you may already know, tragically there were a lot of rapes. And the babies born as a result of this, abandoned by the mothers because they couldn't afford to keep them.
Yeah.
So the Protestant Church and the Catholic Church both had children's homes for these little babies. And it was pretty awful, really, really awful. Quakers are very careful not to waste their money, so that if they're asked for help, they always investigate what the problem is. So my husband and I visited one of these homes once, and there was a poor little baby looking like a Belson survivor. Oh dear, very, very sad. But the nuns were lovely.
Yeah.
I could usually understand what people were saying to me, but we always took an interpreter with us because if you do a language yourself, you may know this, it's hard to think of a reply yourself. We got invited out because we became very friendly with this interpreter, and we went to what they call coffee. They were so short of stuff. They used ground up acorns, and the woman had miraculously made some kind of a biscuit with no fat in. Oh God, what a penance that was, our going out. But we felt that was extremely important, you know, for good relationships. Also, just down the road from where we were billeted, there was an army unit. And this is something I always found very nice. You might think that army people would resent pacifists.
Yeah.
But there was a very good understanding between us. We went out to visit them in the evening, and I've gathered since from what I've read in the papers that this still happens, that the army respects what the pacifists are doing, pacifists respect what the army is doing. This was northwest Germany, and after I'd been there for a while I thought, supposing I had happened to be dropped by parachute, and I'd been blindfolded, so I didn't know where I was. I looked at the people and I looked at the countryside. Where would I suppose I was? Kent.
Yeah.
Racially, those people are our cousins.
Yeah.
Of course, the royal family itself is all intermarried, and they were light, pale-skinned and looking like us, kinds of trees and shrubs and everything you see out in the country, and you know, the general appearance, very much like England. It makes you feel so sad that people that closely related have to be at war with each other. Moral implications, which are important to me, and the financial and practical considerations, we'd live in an infinitely better world if we could stop bombing each other.
Yeah.
Because buildings are destroyed which have to be rebuilt, costs a heck of a lot of money. And one of the things I mind about the most is what I call the cream of our young men. This applies to the Air Force, because you must be, I should say, above average intelligence to learn how to control a modern plane. So what do? We lost more in training, many more, during that World War II, than were lost in exercises. Cream of our youth. Why have we got a lot of people with mental illness and, you know, with bad behaviours? Those young men could have been the grandfathers of another generation. That to me is a major tragedy.
Yeah.